to the Freedom Podcast, and I'm here with Steve. Steve is one of our Freedom people from, based in Wales, aren't you? You're in Porth.
That's right.
And Steve, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, mate. It's 2 days after the cave, and so my voice is nearly recovered, but I'm feeling energized, man. Ready.
Come on, let's go. Steve, I thought it would be great for the people around the world to be able to hear your story, your unique journey with God. So we're going to get into that in a moment. But Steve, I was hearing just briefly from you there that you're at the cave this weekend in the UK. I know some of our churches around the world haven't had the cave yet. If you're someone who doesn't attend Freedom, the cave is our gathering that we do for one weekend every year, where we bring the whole church together across the world. Our churches in India, in Cambodia, in Africa, through Europe. This is our time where we kind of gather around internally, rather than doing outreach and putting events on to connect to the community. This is right for the church family. And so we have this really special time, and God has met with us so powerfully for year on year, every time we gather at the cave. And if you don't know why it's called the cave, it's about Adullam's cave in the book of Samuel. David meets all of his men, and he kind of gets this rabble together in the Adullam's cave.
It's the riffraff, isn't it?
It is the vagabonds.
Yeah.
And they go out in that place, and they become almost like a force, a unified force. And so that was the vision for us as the cave. So, Steve, I wanted to know from you, how was it? What was it like being there in the mix? What was God doing?
Oh, I was in the main room as well. I was spitting distance from the stage, and get some glory on me. Yeah, it was fantastic. You know, I came sometimes, like God always speaks to you, but when you put the prep in, when you've honored Him and you've prepared your heart and stuff, you get so much more. Absolutely. It's like hitting the ground running, isn't it? And so on Friday night, I just hit the ground running. The Holy Spirit has been speaking to me so much since January, really. And if we've got time, then maybe at the end, can we talk about that? Because I've experienced a closeness with the Holy Spirit that I've not really known before, you know, and it's just incredible. And so there's a constant narrative that is just absolutely burning me. I feel like I have to tell people, you know, I feel like I need to preach, I need to evangelize, you know, and that really is the basis for that God's given me for the Firestarter. That it's not like something I have to do, you know, I just have to get out there and it just happens.
Yeah. So Steve and his wife, Lisa, and how many kids have you got now? You just had another one, right?
3, man. Yeah. So we've got Caleb, number 1, then Alina, and then baby Bethany is like 6 weeks old.
Oh, mate.
So
congratulations. That is amazing.
Thanks so much. Yeah.
Yes.
So we were up a little bit.
And you've planted into this little community of Porth. How many people are in Porth? Do you know what the population is?
Yeah, I think it's about 5,500.
So
I looked, which is
5,500 people.
So it's small. So I was looking. There's a few online. It looks like the Porth is a postal district as well. It says like 13,000, but the metropolitan place very small in the valleys. Each street has a new place name. When you go up, it's like a string. If you don't know the Welsh valleys, obviously they're built between the mountains, and so you will travel up the valleys and go through village and village and village and village. And so that's the kind of culture. I think there's like a bit of a Celtic tribal thing happening because people don't tend to go to the other villages, even though it's literally like 5 minutes away. And so we're here in Porth, and we were in Tonnerevel with Dawn, but it's literally over the mountain. It's the next valley from
so
Dawn.
If you're listening to this and you're thinking valleys, you're thinking Wales, you're thinking where is this? And you're thinking Firestarter, what are these things? Just to explain, we have our Freedom churches around the world, and where we've got these established locations where we've often got a venue, we've got a place where we can do kids ministry, where we've got a worship team. But also, I know that Pastor G felt this a number of years ago really strongly, not wanting to be limited to releasing people to reach communities where we can't do all those things yet, where we don't have all of the resources or even the buildings that perhaps we want, but we've got a heart to reach people. So that's where Firestarter was born, where we can take these almost micro churches and start in a community in anywhere by able to play some of the video content, by just going and offering the love and the support, the prayerful community that we know that we have across our church, and taking it to new places. And this is what Steve and Lisa were a part of in Tony Ravel, which is another valley in the country of Wales in the UK. And then also then they felt this call towards Porth, which, like you say, is not far away, but we got to go and reach this community now. So Steve as well, if people are watching this, they've probably noticed that, you're wearing an apron, you a chef. Tell us what you do.
I'm a jeweler. This is my workshop. So this is where it's like Paul's tent making. When I became a Christian and I left to do the academy, the residential Bible school in Freedom, I thought I was gonna be just going straight. I'm gonna be a pastor, or I'm gonna be a missionary, or something. I told everyone in the TV studio I was gonna be a missionary, and I was praying for people.
Just to say, Steve, just give us a bit of context on that. You were working in the TV industry, weren't you?
Yeah, sorry, Josh.
Props, was it?
Yeah, I was doing before I was a Christian. I had a degree in sculpture, fine art sculpture, and I went from there to do did I do architectural models, and then I did big fiberglass advertisement things, and then I did some sets for the theatre, did some prop making. Prop making was my speciality, set dressing. So I was in TV and film basically, and I was doing anything making. I'm like a maker basically, and so specialise in mold making. But yeah, that's where I was before I found God and before I found freedom as well. And then so I left that to go to academy. But then when I went to academy, I was all in because I'd left my career, and it's a hard one to get into a crew. It's very competitive. But then once I'd gone to academy, God was pretty clear about starting. Well, just doing my own business, which was strange because at the time I was like, oh, why would I want to do something that's not central to church? Right. But then since then, oh man, it's like Paul's tent making, that it just facilitates so much that I can actually do. And even people that I get a chance to speak to and reach and stuff is unbelievable. Even this very building, God moved my business up here to the valleys, and then this building is the building we're going to have as our Firestarter upstairs, because there's meeting rooms, there's a small, a medium and a large, and then there's a big auditorium that's perfect. I walked in there and I was like, you're kidding me. Wow. I was like, this is a pre-made church building. Oh, it's got a little coffee bar, it's got a sofa, it's got a stage, it's cool, there's iron girders everywhere, it's got a big character. I was like, oh man, it's even got a projection screen and a big projector. I was like, hallelujah.
Let's go, man. That is so
Let's go, man.
That's really awesome. I'd love to see photos of that. Steve, with you've just referenced this a little bit with some of your story, that you before I came to Jesus. Give us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, and what that looked like for you in terms of Christianity. Give us a bit of that story.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so I didn't really know that many Christians growing up. There was a couple in my school, I think, but I went to Sunday school growing up. So my mum, so I was kind of part in and part out. As soon as I was old enough, I was gone. And I grew up I'm from a place called Manchester, which is in the north of England, and so I'm from a suburb of Manchester, which is from the south, from Trafford, and so
you're not a United fan, are you?
Oh, bro, I'm so sorry. I'm just not into sports.
I know that. I can't believe you're actually one of the people that is from the exact area that's not a United fan. Sorry, just to soccer.
The amount of hearts I've broken by telling football fans that, Josh.
I'm from Trafford, but I actually don't care.
Yeah, I'm an art student, babes. But yeah, so so I went off to uni in Cardiff, which is why I was in Wales, and I did fine art sculpture, which is what led into my career. But yeah, so I was probably about I think I was 24, and to be honest, as I was in this television world, I'm a very driven individual, quite an intense person, to be honest. But I was always like trying to get to the kind of top, you know. And then as I got into TV world, I realized I was very lucky. I think God accelerated me really so that I could get to a point where I could see the people who were at the top and meet them and talk to them and know them. And I just thought like, oh no, I'm going to spend the rest of 40 more years in this industry and I'm going to be ending up like them. And they are a mess, you know. They are very rich and very renowned and stuff, but they're just like, oh, what is
broken?
No, yeah. All of a sudden, you've got to like, I think you have a definition of success in your mind, don't you? And then all of a sudden, that kind of gets shattered. And so I didn't really know. Yeah, I was a little bit like, oh, and so I was. Yeah, at the time, I was earning a lot of money as well, and so I think I was on like about $1,000 a week, which was entry level, for like a 22-year-old or something. And so I was kind of like, you know, I was popping down the casino and I was I was doing a few silly things. And so the time when I actually first came to church, it'd been a while since I'd been into a church building, but I'd done a load of cocaine on a Saturday night, right? And if you know cocaine, which you probably don't, but it's like, it makes it in your mind, it like makes your mind super active. It's like full of electricity. And I felt like there was all these little thoughts just talking to me. And I was like, oh gosh. And I'd done too much. And Saturday night became Sunday morning. And then I was I kind of went to my house and I was sat there thinking, oh gosh, I'm going to lose my mind here. And then I heard the church bells ringing, which was a Catholic church. I lived in a place called Adamstown in Cardiff. And I went to St. German's Catholic Church. I went out and I went into the Sunday morning service, and like a curtain of peace and calm just like swept over me, and I was like, oh gosh. And then that was like one of the things that kind of brought me. God had been doing a lot of other stuff that I can't really take me a long time to explain, but he'd been lining things up really to get my attention. And so then after that, I started going to this Catholic church for a while. And then one of my housemate at the time, a girl called Laura, she knew Shakira from Cardiff campus. And so she said, oh, you know, that old church building that you're always complaining about is really cold. She said, well, there's a church that meet in a cinema in town, right? And so I was like, a cinema? What are you on about? And so I thought it was fantastic idea. And so I bombed it down there on my bike. And yeah, I was like welcomed with open arms, man. And yeah, I was kind of blown away at the kind of reception, really. The genuine, after you've been in television world and there's all this kind of like, there's all this like cloak and dagger and there's like a lot of kind of weird, snaky, hidden agenda and stuff. And then it was just such a stark contrast, right. You know, I was like, and it was the mighty Chris and Karen Cook as well. I was just chatting to Chris on my first week. He come over and said hello and stuff. And that's where I met Lisa again after. She went to the same uni as me, but I met her properly there. I spoke to her and stuff.
Wow.
And yeah, so that was, I even remember it was November 2014 and it was Karen preaching on Bend and Flex. I've got to be flexible to do what God wants you to do. I remember it all. I remember everything. Yeah, all the people I spoke. I seen Paul Andrews in there. Yeah.
So
yeah, man, it was
when
good.
You went to Freedom for the first time, you'd obviously only really had a Catholic experience before, and you're obviously getting this huge welcome. You've got this kind of very dynamic community. You obviously decide to come back. What's the kind of thing then that what starts to change in you then as you start to attend the church?
Well, sorry, my mum was a Methodist, and so I'd done like a Methodist Sunday school. yeah. So, but the thing, I suppose the things that had gone into me there, and my mother's a real amazing woman of faith. And I suppose all the seed that she's been putting in me, that had it just been, it'd been like lying dormant.
Wow.
And I suppose that's just like such an encouragement because I was pretty, as a teenager, I was pretty wild, Josh. I was taking drugs at a pretty early age, to be honest. Manchester's a heck of a place to grow up, though, to be fair. But all that seed that she'd been throwing in me, I felt like all at like one time was like just bearing fruit and coming up out of the ground. And then everything I'd ever heard and read was like becoming true. Like I'd known stuff, but it was just never real before. But then, so I'm reading the Bible for the first time on my own. And then, because I had all these questions, I have to work everything out as well, because when you're a maker, engineers have the same thing where they have to kind of calibrate everything. How does this all kind of fit together? And I was like, how is this? This isn't, first off, I was like, this isn't church. Where's his dog collar? I was like, all this. And then I was investigating the Bible and I was thinking, like, trying to work it all out. And then I was like, oh man, you know what? Freedom is actually pretty orthodox. Like charismatic Pentecostalism, if you just had the Bible, I would be like, yeah, that's pretty spot on. And then I think I remember, so I responded for about 5 weeks in a row, I think. But then there was when you're in, you just want to make sure, don't you?
Yeah.
But then I remember so Josh Cook once preached, and at the end of his preach, he said, look, either God is who he says he is, or none of this matters. And he's like, if he is who he says he is, it's like the single most important fact in human history and beyond. It's like, if God really is who he says he is, then that's like game over for everything else. It's like him and only him. And if it's not, then let's just leave right now, because there's better things to do. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so oh man, that just hit me like a ton of bricks. I remember just thinking, like, up to that point, God had proved himself real in my life. Yeah. And so I was like, oh God, if this is it, And then all of a sudden I was just like, let's go. I remember going up and hugging Chris Cook and just I had some tears coming down my face, but I was like, I'm in, Chris, I'm in.
Come on.
Just giving him a squeeze.
That's quite amazing. I love it. What a story. And as you're then connecting in and it's starting to change you and you're growing, and I guess you're already in a relationship with Lisa at this point, or does that come later?
Yeah, that was around the same time. That was starting to.
So that's starting to flourish. But then also you come and do the academy, right? Where it's like you take the year out and you come and do the academy in Hereford.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how was that for you? And again, what was almost that next layer that was happening in you as you were doing the academy? Because I know even as people are listening to this, there was lots of people at the cave who were hearing about the academy, maybe considering doing it. What was the impact on you through taking that step?
Yeah, I think it taking a step where you kind of sacrificing things to God. It almost, I think God uses that to actually just change. If you're in the wrong place, he's going to change your life trajectory. And that kind of stuff is so important. Like I wasn't in the right spot, I think. And he used the whole year just to kind of transplant me, as it were. But man, and so given, as I said, I'd left my career to go there. And so I was full. I hit the ground running. And you remember, Josh, because you were there. You were one of the teachers and said, "Oh, you were running it, weren't you?"
I think so.
Yeah, that was it. It was before Rose. Yeah, and so I really hit the ground running. But it was like a foundation. It says in Proverbs, the wise leave an inheritance to their children's children. And I honestly believe that even though it's just 1 year of your life, which in the midst of like 70, 80 years is not really a massive investment, it's like, I honestly believe my children's children will benefit from that 1 year. Like it's so important. Those fundamentals, those foundations are so important to like actually pull yourself on and lay them, and then from then you have the confidence to actually run at what you're actually gonna do. You know, that's like academy's not what you're called to, but it's the platform that you launch from. If you're with me.
Come on, Steve. Yeah, absolutely right. So, Steve, you then got to the point where you'd given up your TV career, and I remember some of the props you made, and they were, you showed me some of those, and they were amazing. Like, you're a very awesome and talented person.
Thank
so
you,
to
mate.
almost take a step away from that, and start to, withdraw from something that had really driven you for many years. Like, I want to advance, I want to be in this career, and say, I'm going to detach myself from that so I can build the kingdom. And I know that at the end of academy, it was like, right, we're a church planting church. I'm ready to go. What happened there? Because I know that you had this call, and you knew that, this is what this is in our blood as freedom, and yet that wasn't quite the outcome immediately for you, was it?
Yeah. So I think I was ready for it. But then God kind of kept me. As I said, when I left, I was telling everyone I was going to be a missionary. But yeah, I think now when I look back, even though I was really on fire, I still had, man, God really has to go to town. Especially, man, you've just been living in the world doing cocaine, going down the casino. It's not like you have all the authority as soon as you are saved. It's like you have all the authority over snakes and scorpions, all the works of the enemy, but you've not grown in the power yet. And so you do need time to kind of refocus. So really, God not sending me out on like a mission straight away was probably a bit of a mercy to like everyone else. I could have contributed to a train wreck there maybe or something. But he spent the time still testing me and building me. And I was serving in Cardiff campus. I ended up being the youth pastor though, with Zeal pastor at the time, which was, it was so good, man. It was so fruitful. It was so amazing. Just, we had, at that time, like at one point we had like 50 odd kids come in.
Wow.
I remember Derek Bonsu giving like a Muslim guy a small New Testament so he could like put it in his coat and like hide it from his dad and stuff. And it was filled. It was right in the city centre, so it was like filled with ragamuffins. Man, we were baptizing like youth by the tens, mate. It was off the hook, Josh. It was unbelievable. Especially one year when we went to, there was a guy, do you remember Joseph Mons? Flipping love Joseph Mons, man. Yeah, me and Joseph Mons did the advance, and a load of,
which is our advance is our yearly gathering where we were doing for young people, where they would go away for a few days and camp together, or have like a residential together, and you were helping.
Yeah, sorry.
Weren't you?
I'm using a lot of freedom because it's you. I'm using a lot of freedom language. It's the annual youth camp.
I'll do the interpretation for you, Steve. Don't you worry.
Thank you, mate. Thank you. And we had like a breakout of healings. I remember writing it down. We had 12 physical healings, and all the youth saw them. Like so not cool. Just like, my headache is gone. It's like a girl with skin condition. We just prayed and like, bang, new skin. There you go. Like, oh man, it was unbelievable. And even, this is why I love youth ministry, Ryan, is because it doesn't take many years before all those little boys and girls, I mean, they're not that, they were like 11 to 18 or something, but it doesn't take long before they're actually men and women. Even like at the cave this past weekend, seeing Maddie Hobbs, she was one of our flipping best girls. She was up there on the stage leading worship, and it gives you like an investment. You're like invested in these people. Like baptized Josiah Andrews, baptized Zach Andrews. It's just like all these teenagers. They're literally out there changing the world now, and so it warms my heart literally, and it brings a tear to my eye when I think about some of the amazing like young people I've had the honor to kind of steward for a season. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. So Steve,
Flipping
talk
love
to
it.
us a bit about then when you felt the call to go and support Dawn, who leads our Firestarter, our micro church down there in Tony Revel. What was that like?
Yes.
And, you know, the move to that from going to a established church in Cardiff where you've got kids provision and you've got, you know, a great worship team, and then you're kind of stepping into something totally different and feeling called to that. Talk to us a bit about how that was and what God did through that.
Yeah. Can I just take you through the journey from the end of youth ministry actually to until that? Because I feel like I just feel in my spirit this is important. So when I came after nearly 5 years of youth ministry, I was at the end of my tether. I was close. You know, I was just like, Lisa just had our first baby. Business was struggling and stuff, and I was like financially, I was struggling, and yeah, I basically bailed out before I burnt out, basically, and I was after such an amazing what would you call it, like a career of or like stewardship of that role. Then I was plunged into like a bit of a like, oh God, what was that, man? What on earth just happened? You know, that those last year or something where I just started struggling more and more and more and more and more. And then right at the end of that, I think lockdown happened. I stepped out and then lockdown happened like a month later. And so I was kind of in a low place and then went kind of straight into lockdown. But then, I just wanted to mention him. So we got a new pastor, Pastor Luke and Pastor Sophie Hancorn. And I remember just opening up to Pastor Luke. And I think I'd been angry at God. This was one of the things that reminded me, because we were talking about at the cave. And I think I'd been angry at God. It's like, come on, God, I was seeking first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. And it's like, I've just felt like the things weren't added to me, man, you know? And so then I was like, yeah, I was in that space. I was quite upset, really, quite hurt, maybe not by anyone, but I think I was angry at God. And then, Pastor Luke come in, and I remember we had a couple of sessions, and I think he delivered me from some stuff, you know. And I remember being on my workshop back in Cardiff, being on my hands and knees, and he had his hand on me, and he's praying for me. And I just felt like a release of something I've been holding stuff. And then it was just like, the funny thing when you have like a hurt with God is you have two roads you can pick. You can either choose to just believe again, like, okay, I feel like I've hurt, I don't understand what's happening, but I'm just going to believe again and go again. Or you can take the other road, but the other road's not even a road. It's like a roundabout. You don't go, if you don't if you don't believe again and go after God again, then you're basically just going to sit down and stay there for the whole rest of your life. So it's not even an option. There's not even any option B, is there? Because God's by that point,
that is a profound picture, that you almost think there's two pathways, and actually one goes forwards and one goes in circles. And it is amazing how many people do fall for that trap, really, of that discouragement. And they almost decide, well, that's it, God, and they just go in circles, and it's so sad.
Yeah, because it's true, isn't it? And people literally sometimes do for like 20 years. They'll just keep showing up, but they're still in that spot. And man. So that was probably the hardest thing I've ever done, though, is just feel like with all your pain and all your hurt and just tears literally still in your eyes, and you're just like, okay, let's go again. Because there's no way, you've already left everything else. You've already given God everything. So you've literally got nothing else. And can't go back to the casino. I don't have any money anymore.
That's what you think. I've got nothing else. But it's like, even when you're saying that, seek first my kingdom and all these things shall be added to you. Shall is like, it will happen. But what's happening is that you are determining the time frame of that promise. So you actually are still holding on to something of your time,
conditions.
your interpretation, so you're not fully submitted. And it's
Yeah,
actually, this hasn't been done to your timing. And I've been there myself in that situation. And I think about
100%.
for a lot of people that are angry or frustrated with God, is they've put on, so they say, hey, I gave this to you, God, but you haven't done
Right.
this. But this is God's timing, not yours. And to him,
Yeah,
1 day is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is 1 day. He doesn't work to our timings. He's not submitted under our in our understandings. It's like
yeah,
he's going to
yeah,
do things in his way. And so, like you said, oh, I thought I gave everything. It's like, well, actually, you still held on to, and I think we got right with
yeah,
this as well. Still held on to, well, no, it's got it. I'm going to submit to you, and then you're going to do things on my timeline. But actually, it doesn't work like
yes,
that. And now you
yeah,
see some of the fullness now, right, of like what God's
yeah,
done and the his promise to you. But he needed to still deal with some things within you, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, 100%. That was flipping well said, Josh, to be honest, mate. Yeah, that was good.
Come on.
But yeah, so I was holding on. I was trying to fit God into your box. And then when God refuses to go into that box, you think it's God that's let you down. But it's really, it's your own silly trying to make the box and get him in it. It's doomed from the start.
Come on. So
But
tell us about Tony Raval then, and about that transition, how that was for you, because you've got kids, you've got a wife. This isn't just you saying, hey, let's just do, it's like, you got to
yeah,
think about your family. Talk about
yeah,
that
sure.
step and what God's done through that.
Yeah, it's been amazing actually. The whole process has just, I feel like, has like leveled us up as a family. Living on mission, I now believe really is for everyone, whether you go or whether you stay, it's for everyone. And so, yeah, I remember, obviously now I have children. I'm not like a young man anymore, so I can't just run this way, off we go. And so I said to God, like, but I am still like absolutely wholehearted, like, God, you can have any area, like nothing is barred for you. And so so then he stirs me up for Firestarters, but he didn't give me where to go. And he stirred me up, and this whole thing lasted about 2 years or something, and he was stirring me up. And then so I said, okay, God, if you're going to stir me up like this, you got to stir Lise up too. And then so God stirs Lise up, and then I'm like, okay, you're going to have to like speak to us like together, because often our devotions have been kind of separate, not actually been, even though we're married, we've been kind of in separate spaces spiritually. And then he starts speaking to us together for like the first time, in like 6 years marriage or 7 years marriage or whatever. And then we go on the process of like, of having confirmation really. I think we literally had about six or seven firm confirmations, like, okay, speaks to me, speaks to Lise, speaks to us together. Like there's certain amount of miracles in this area, submit it to leadership and get that approval. Okay, someone drops a prophecy, someone drops another prophecy. It's like by the time we actually got there, I was so certain. It's like, and I don't want to project my experience and testimony onto everyone else, but to be absolutely like certain, 100%, not even 99%, 100%, this is exactly where we're called, this is exactly what we're meant to be doing, that has proved such like a blessing so that we have absolutely no doubt. And so that any because when an issue arises, I often think like, is this me? Is it something I'm doing? Am I in the wrong place? Have I missed a step?
Right.
I kind of sometimes get into that space, but to absolutely just be certain and be like, no, this is it, 100%. Never been more sure of anything in my life, Josh. Here we go. And so we were both stirred up, but it's still not actually given us a place to go to, and not given us a location. And we went to a cave, and this is the thing with the cave. It's like not just the gathering, it's actually Because I remember when Firestarters was launched at like one of the caves,
2020.
and it's like that is actually my life now.
Yeah.
So it's not just like, oh, let's go to a Christian conference. That sounds so weak, doesn't it? Doesn't that not like it doesn't even scratch the surface of what we do, man. It's like you're going to find out what you might even be living in 5 years or something. And so yeah, we went and that was our question. God, give us a location. We're ready to go. We're absolutely sure that you've called us. Let's go. Now, remember, a woman called Dawn Parkin, the mighty Dawn Parkin, stands up. She was on a video, I think. She was on a video, and she was talking about Ton of Rebel. And both of our hearts just absolutely melted for Dawn and for the valleys and stuff. And so we decided we should go out to see her at one point in the not-so-distant future. And then even we got locked out of our house. Only time that's ever happened in the history of my life. We got locked out of our house that night, and so we said, well, we may as well go up and see her today, because she had evening church on. So when we went up there, and again, I remember she was stood there, and she said this thing. You know when Nehemiah hears of the walls of Jerusalem being broken down, and it's like he feels it in his heart, and he goes before the king. It was like that same thing. I was like, oh, she stands there and she says, the Lighthouse Centre is right in the middle of like Ton of Revel. And so there's like houses, classic Welsh terrace houses all around it. And she was like, there's people in these houses that are just crying out for something to happen, for anything to happen, for someone to come along, for something to happen, to just break them out of the everyday, And as she was saying that, I could almost see them. I could almost see people like in their terrace houses, just like suicide up here, man, is massive, and it's crazy the amount of stuff that happens, and it's loads of addiction, loads of all that kind of stuff. And I could just see these people like just almost crying out like, oh, and the frustration, and I could almost hear it, and my heart was just broken for them, basically. And so we went up to support Dawn, and then we ended up being with Dawn in Ton of Revel for 18 months. And then, as I say, I moved my business here, and then this is Porth, where this building is. But then again, when we moved to Porth, God was just stirring me up. I kept doing prayer walks around a little loop around Porth town, and I just became absolutely certain that this was the place. And then
great training for you in preparation, doing that in Tony Revel, and I think that's one thing. He prepares and gets you ready, doesn't he? And so you've been there since January. You're just getting started, just gathering a few people together now. Really exciting stuff. What you're doing. I'm excited to see what God does through it. And I know already some things breaking through, and some
seen some healings, man.
Yeah, let's go. Some signs of God that follow His people. And I know as well, Steve, with your business, it's called Wood and Gold, isn't it? And you make
wood and gold
jewelry. And
this is not an advertisement. .co.uk.
I would say though, like Steve is living on mission, and he does do custom jewelry, and he does design some beautiful stuff. And so, if you're looking for a tent for, want to go and support Paul. If you're looking for anything like that, go and support Steve, because he does some amazing work. Check out his website and support him if you can. But Steve, one of the things you mentioned at the start was about how since you've moved in January, the Holy Spirit's really been speaking to you a lot. And so I thought maybe it'd be great to just finish with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So when I came to Porth, I'm kind of, when I enter a new region, I'm praying like, teach me what's happening already in the airways, and teach me how to like fight this battle, because each culture is different, each people is different. And so I took a pretty long fast at the start. I did a 7-day water fast in January, and then from there it launched me.
Just to say that 7 days with no food and only drinking water, no other kind of drinks. And you're still working at the same time as doing this, aren't you?
Still working. Pregnant wife, 2 kids. Mate, I don't know. You know what? I don't know how they actually managed. Like 21 days or 40 days. I don't know how you do that, because after 7 days, Josh, even my eyeballs had lost weight. Honestly, honestly. Literally, I think I've not got it to give though. I'm a pretty slim dude, to be honest.
Oh, bless you.
But,
so anyway, you were praying and fasting, and then
praying and fasting, and from that space, what God did out of that is he unlocked my capacity to pray. He's allowed me to be able to press in for extended amount of time, and also the Holy Spirit has made. It's almost like he's shown me what is available, like for me and us, like as a people, like in this generation, and it is mind blowing. It's like so much more than like building a church. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. If you look at like Adam in the garden, he was built to have encounters. He had daily encounters in the cool of the day. You know, he had no watch, no iPhone. He'd be gardening, and then God would come to him, and he'd have like an encounter with the presence of God, and that has started. Is what, because before, like, I would only be able to pray for like half an hour. But I think there was a lot of duty like mixed up in that. Now, I'm a very disciplined guy. Now, I can pray. I can drag myself through quite a lot of stuff, right? But actually, the encounters with the Holy Spirit and having, like, I had my first vision, which I'd never had before, which was absolutely wild. And you know what, Josh? I was more of a diplomat than a fighter, but I always had a good amount of fight in me, right? And all of that, even just the way I've been made, even the way I was brought up, it's all coming to this place where I'm like, I was born for this.
Come on, man. Steve, we are cheering you on. You and Lisa and the kids. Believe in what you're doing, and may his kingdom come through you guys as you pray and you glorify his name and you drive out the darkness with the light.
Come on, mate. That's right.
Bless you. Thank you so
much. Bless you, Josh.
We'll be back next week with another episode with Pastor G. We look forward to connecting again soon on the Freedom Podcast. Thanks again. Bye.
Bye.